can actually watch in their convenience at a later date. So we're recording right now, and I'm going to go ahead and guide a meditation. So you can just go ahead and assume a posture that is relaxed, but of course alert, and perhaps gently close your eyes or just keep a soft gaze, looking down at the floor, perhaps a few feet in front of you. And go ahead and just notice the experience that you're already having. Taking a posture of receptivity and just becoming aware of the breath and wherever the sensation of the breath is most present in your body, allowing that to be your anchor that you can return to from time to time when necessary, when the mind wanders, because it will. So this meditation will be based on the 6 guidelines of insight dialogue, which are to pause, relax, open, attune to emergence, listen deeply, and speak the truth. With the meditation instruction pause, there's an instant opportunity for relief from clinging. When we pause, we can taste the freedom from habitual reactivity and knee-jerk reactions. Pausing long enough to notice the freedom of each moment and each choice. As we settle deeper into stillness, just maintain that awareness of the sensation of your breath in your body. And each time the mind wanders, there's the opportunity for a pause and perhaps even a smile. As you reach that moment of awareness and return, begin again, one more time, mindfully being aware of the body and mind. With the meditation guideline relax, the second instruction of insight dialogue, there is an opportunity for mindfulness to stabilize. As our mindfulness becomes more stable, we can invite the release of any bodily or mental tension that may be present. Perhaps noticing where any place in the body tension is held or felt. Just being aware of that tension or tightness. And perhaps with the next out breath, just mindfully saying to yourself, letting go, letting go. As we let go of whatever tension might be present, meeting with whatever remains with a kind acceptance. So this is not a pushing or a pulling, more just an awareness and a gently letting go. Now that we've established mindfulness internally, we can expand our awareness and ease into the third meditation instruction of insight dialogue to open, opening to a world outside the body. Perhaps first just noticing the feel of air on your skin. Maybe noticing your body in this space, the room that you're sitting in, while maintaining the awareness of the sensation of your breath and where it's most noticeable in your body. Expanding your awareness outward to also notice perhaps sounds in the room. Becoming aware of even the sound of this voice. Expanding your awareness to recognize that we're meditating in relation with other meditators, all on this call. Maybe even hearing sounds outside the room or outside the window. Just noticing those sounds and also letting them go. We can ease into the fourth guideline of insight dialogue to attune to emergence. Noticing and yielding to this ever constant flux of change. Letting impermanence itself be the anchor. While maintaining this awareness of the sensation of the breath where it's most present in your body, we can open to whatever arises and passes away. In the sensed, there's only the sensed. If a sense object comes into your awareness, can you notice it and just let it go? Maybe even saying, gone, gone, as you notice the sense object floating away. And the scene is only the scene. So perhaps even with eyes closed, you see darkness. Can that sense contact of the darkness enter your awareness without hijacking your attention? Can you just notice the sense contact of sight and then let it go? And the heard is only the heard. Can you, as you sit here right now, hear these words being spoken and gently let them go once they reach the contact of hearing? And the cognized is only the cognized. As a thought arises and enters your awareness, can that thought be let go? This isn't theory, this is practice right here, right now, as you're hearing, as you're cognizing, as thoughts arise. Can they be noticed and then let go? The fifth guideline to listen deeply is to listen with the whole body fully receptive. noticing how the body and mind are touched by the presence of another. Can you hear the story without being the story? As these words are spoken, can you provide a generous listening to what is being said without having to think about your to-do list, trying to fix something, wishing something were different? Can you truly listen and let go any attachment to wanting anything to be different? In listening deeply, we give ourselves and our partner that we're speaking with the gift of our full attention. No need to think about what I might say next. No need to think about how things should be different or could be repaired or improved. Just a generous awareness of what's going on in my own mind and body as I'm taking in what is being said. Having paused, relaxed, opened, attuned to emergence and listened deeply, we have now set the foundation to be able to speak the truth, the sixth guideline, the sixth meditation instruction. The ability to discern the inner truth of what would be spoken now, offering words in kindness and for mutual benefit. So as we go about our days and we're in relation with another, can we pause long enough after a stimulus to create some space before our response, detaching from a habitual reaction based on previous conditioning, a reprieve from the constant push and pull of regrets of the past or future worries, a true letting go to be right here, right now, in the present moment, inclining towards a response that leads to less harm and less suffering. A response that inclines towards loving kindness, compassion, joy for yourself and another, and equanimity, balance, poise, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the person we're in dialogue with. Can we radiate loving kindness, compassion, altruistic joy, and equanimity? Can that be the basis of our next words spoken, our next act taken, our next thought arising and directing towards others? Continuing to maintain that awareness of the sensation of the breath where it's most present in your body. Settling deeper into an ease based on the pause that allows us to step out of conditioning and habit to be right here, right now. And as we come to the nearing the end of this practice, just take 4 conscious breaths representing loving kindness, compassion, altruistic joy for others, and equanimity. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes and rejoin the group. So, Philippe, I will turn it over to you to address check-ins.
Okay. Thank you, Ron, for that beautiful meditation and for bringing up the 6 parts, the 6 insight dialogue guidelines. And now that we've gotten to a point of maybe just being a little bit more in tune with our bodies, that maybe we are feeling embodied, I'd like to ask you to just look inside and let us know, or let what can you uncover. And by a check-in, it's just using the weather patterns, perhaps sunny, partly cloudy, partly sunny, raining, snow, a thunderstorm. How are you feeling right now? And I'd ask you to just, oh, great, putting it in the chat, or perhaps if you have an iPad and can't use chat, if you want to just unmute yourself and just say it out. I'll put one in too.
Hey, Philippa, it's Lex.
Hi, Lex.
Beautiful to see your faces, and thanks, Ron, for an amazing sit. My sort of metaphor would be when you're in like the really dark clouds, but then you can kind of see that like beautiful ray of light. That is the image that sort of came to me when you gave the prompt.
Oh, thank you, Lex. We have slightly breezy, partly sunny with cool winds. We have Lex's maybe sunny, but in the distance. Brisk and sunny, foggy, partly sunny. Okay, thank you. So thank you for taking the time to do a check-in, just checking in with ourselves with how we're feeling embodied in this moment, in this place and time. And now I think the chat has sort of slowed down, so maybe we can move on, Ron, to the modeling.
Sure.
So I'm going to model a contemplation, and Ron has given us the 6 parts of insight dialogue. This is also called interpersonal mindfulness, because when we're meditating by ourselves, whether we're in company or not. And this is meditating with another human being. So, Ron, do you want to say a little bit about the what each role is, or should we just start?
Um, yeah, I'll do 1 minute of just explanation. The idea is this: as you're a speaker, you're actually meditating while you're speaking. So you're not actually having a conversation. The idea would be to pause, relax, open, attune to emergence, listen deeply, and speak the truth while you're in dialogue with another. Basically breaking that habit of a knee-jerk response a reaction rather than a response, right? So the listener can just simply listen. For today, we're really just going to work on pause. So as you're having a dialogue with another, and we'll all get a chance to do this soon, you're going to be pausing, and we'll explain that a little bit more. But what we'll do right now is for a minute or two, Felipa will be the speaker, and she'll kind of show how this might look, and I'll be the listener. And as the listener, I'm just going to listen. I don't need to say a word. I don't need to nod my head. I just need to listen. And then in about 3 minutes or so, I'll explain to you a little more about what's going on as the listener role and what the utility is of it. Okay, Felipa.
Okay. And I'm going to ring my own bell just to start, Ron. And Ron and I, we talked about a contemplation about feeling suffering and how or what one feels or has experienced suffering in one's life. And I keep thinking of leaving the house very, very early this morning, and it was 18 degrees in Boston. And I was feeling a little tired, not suffering, but just tired. And I left, went to the gym and left. And I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed with the day ahead. And all of a sudden, I saw people out walking dogs. And there was one dog who was sniffing everywhere. And I noticed he was missing one of his hind legs. And I was overcome with a sense of desolation and a sense of compassion for this poor animal. And then I thought, that is suffering. But he wasn't suffering. He was happy. He was sniffing. He had a cute little jacket on. He was a short-haired dog. I just thought, that's not suffering. He's looking beyond his limits and is sniffing and enjoying what's arising now or what he was sniffing.
Thank you, Felipa. That was a perfect example of the here and now um, that we work with when we're working with the contemplation and insight dialogue. I'll just say a few words about my role as a listener. It's beautiful to be able to listen and not have to judge what I'm listening to, fix anything, tell the speaker how to do it differently, where she went wrong. All I have to do is be there. I'm just an object of attention for her. It's an object of attention that I have found to be far more inspiring than the breath, to be quite honest. That's one of the reasons why I like this practice so much. I find I can be way more engaged when I have a listener, even if that listener is not speaking with me. I see that person there, and it's easier for me to ground myself in the present. So as a listener, I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say next. I'm not thinking about how to fix what's been said, how to give somebody advice as to where they could be going wrong in life. None of that. I just need to be an anchor for them. And for me, the beauty is to realize you can have a dialogue with someone without the burdens of having to fix anything. Many of us are attorneys, if not all, and we're fixers by nature. We went to law school, they taught us how to fix. So this, to some degree, is a modification of that to have a dialogue in a different way, which is why I really enjoy the listening role. So in a moment, Felipa will put you all into groups of two. We will then begin practicing with um, a contemplation in what's called a dyad. We're going to have a speaker for 3 minutes. The other person will be the listener, and then you'll switch so that the speaker becomes listener and the listener becomes speaker. So the person whose first name begins with a letter closest to the beginning of the alphabet will be the first speaker. The other person will listen deeply, giving your full generous attention to the speaker. There is no need for the listener to respond to anything heard. You don't even need to nod your head. I actually usually put myself on mute and just give my undivided attention to the speaker. We're going to explore a contemplation, and the contemplation Felipe and I worked out for today is going to be suffering, exploring where suffering is in your lives right now, right here. We'll do it with the support of the guideline pause. And so what's the pause? It's a temporary stop. When we pause, we stop what we're doing, saying, or thinking, and shift our attention to the immediate experience here and now. As I was listening to Felipa, my mind was getting hijacked because that's what the mind does. Being aware of it and letting it go, that's the practice. So whether you're in individual silent meditation or meditating in relationship, we pause to remember and notice the moment right here, right now. What is this? What experience is actually happening in my mind and body? That's the pause. Why we do it? We do it to interrupt the automatic habits, the knee-jerk reactions. So pausing is critical to get in between the stimulus and the response, to give ourselves the freedom to choose or respond rather than just reacting mindlessly. Without pausing and remembering our awareness, we can't find the freedom to choose. So that's why the first insight dialogue guideline and the most critical one is pause. So we invite you to use a contemplation. The contemplation is a reflection and a simple naming of where suffering is present in your life now. Maybe you live in Northern California and it doesn't feel right that it's 70 degrees in January. Or maybe you can't understand why we need Greenland. Or maybe you think, why can't Greenland just go along for the ride? Whatever your politics are, that might be causing some suffering in your life. Maybe you have tension at home or at work. So the idea isn't just to reel off a list of everything wrong in your life, but to actually pause, take time and really inquire into where the suffering, the worry, the dejection, the irritation, where is it present in this human life here and now? And explore the real felt sense of suffering. Notice where it's present in your body. Notice and name the thoughts or feelings that are present. Is there aversion, judgment, maybe even some acceptance or compassion? Even if you've thought about this 100 times already, let this be a chance to learn something new about it. So remember, it's a contemplation, it's not a conversation. So pause as many times as you need before you speak, while you're speaking, after you speak, whenever you have to in order to go deeper and find whatever's true right here, right now. So after 3 minutes, Felipa will ring a bell so that you can switch speaker to listener. However, my experience has always been you may want to keep times for yourself because we're not sure if you're going to be able to hear the bell. And then after that 6 minutes, you'll then go into open dialogue. So in open dialogue, again, you'll be working with your partner. The instructions are the same with the one important exception. You no longer have the role of speaker listener. So it's more like you're actually in a relation with another. You choose when is appropriate to speak. All the while being supported by the pause. So it's going to be 3 minutes speaker, 3 minutes listener, then you switch, 3 minutes. So it's going to be 3 minutes, then 3 minutes. Then go into 6 minutes, and we'll try to have a bell rung by Felipa again to mark the 6 minutes when it begins and then when it ends. and then we'll bring you back into the room. During that open dialogue portion, go ahead and continue having this meditative dialogue that while you're speaking and listening, you're pausing generously to keep returning to the present moment and identify with what you're feeling, what's going on with the body, rather than just having a conversation based on knee jerk reactions. So,
And
Felipe, any further words about that?
just don't be afraid of the silences and of the pauses. There's no need to fill the space, which I think many of us do. So I think I'm looking at the numbers of people. I'm going to assign 11 breakout rooms, and I'll just start to create the rooms. Okay. Okay, I think everybody is almost here. The second speaker had a little more time, folks. I'm sorry. So let's do a little inquiry. How was that?
So, when I meet with Insight Dialogue practitioners, which I do like 2 or 3 times a week, we'll usually leave about 10 minutes at the end so that each person or whoever feels the desire can unmute and just say a few words about what the experience was like. So we wanted to give you all an opportunity to do that now.
Some people are writing in chat. It reminds me of my experience in recovery rooms. How interesting. A recovery room in a hospital, Rosa?
Well, I'll give my takeaway, Philippa. So when I was the listener, even in just modeling, uh, I was able to notice I'm listening to this story Philippa has of this beautiful story of this dog, and then I'm thinking, but I've got all these other things to worry about for the next 45 minutes. Why? I don't have time for this story. And I paused and just came back to the story and just kind of relaxed my body and mind and thought, all that matters right now is the story. Everything else will take care of itself. But it was kind of cool to see the mind getting hijacked, and it was like I was watching it in a movie. So thanks for the opportunity to let me model, Felipa, because it was a perfect time. And I guess I'll add one other thing. It was beautiful to hear your story, Felipa, as to how what was happening right then, right there in that moment is what you were able to sink into and ground yourself with. And the habitual reactions that we believe sometimes of like even a dog with missing hind leg, that projection of, oh, he must be unsatisfied. That habitual reaction is what we're trying to pause and give ourselves a reprieve to escape from and come right back to the reality right here, right now, as it's unfolding, as opposed to the stories we make up in our mind. So thank you.
And also, we move away from something that we have aversion to or that we think is the way it should be, and we try to control things. So I agree. Um, Here's an interesting comment. I had a very nice conversation with my breakout room partner, but I didn't feel as if I were meditating. And I think, I mean, this is the first time we've even attempted this together. I remember when I first started doing Insight Dialogue, I think I felt very much like Takemi feels or wrote, in that I felt it was more like a conversation because that's what I'm comfortable with. And I think very often we revert to what we're comfortable with. Would your conversation partner like to maybe say something about that, Takemi? I forget who was with whom.
I was actually in the room with her. I thought we had a good conversation. I went first and then she went and then we had some open dialogue. But yeah, I think she's right. I didn't feel like I was meditating, but I had a very difficult time not expressing myself in my face, like nodding and
Right.
doing, and I think it was good to be able to see my face on the screen because otherwise I wouldn't have known that I was doing that. So that was a good visual cue to remind me to stop doing that and to just focus on listening. But I thought it was very, very interesting.
Linda, that's something that many of us suffer from. Whenever I go on 1 week retreats in noble silence, I find it very hard not to smile at others or to try to catch their eye because I'm such an extrovert. So I think that's so true. And we try to, we feel that just by being completely open and receptive, but not expressing emotion one way or the other, we feel it's almost impolite. So that's a beautiful noticing. And Rosa wrote, "Me too, Maria. Very nice. We listen to each other with attention, intention, and interest." Very. I also didn't feel like meditating, and I wonder if it would help if I close my eyes or look down when I'm speaking. Um, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I've never that's never come up, Lillian. So thank you for a question of first impression here.
Yeah,
Um,
Lillian, I'm sorry, go ahead, Felipa.
no, it's you're with another, and that's part of the dialogue, the insight dialogue. And in the same way that when we meditate, we're sort of like training the mind, what we're trying to do is really train to speak without getting and listen without getting a response ready, and to do so mindfully and from inside. In fact, I didn't know until I started speaking that I was going to even tell that story about the dog. That was not rehearsed. I knew the question was about suffering, but that's all I knew. Perhaps I could also begin by a few moments of breath work. I think, in fact, that's what Ron was trying to do, was to get us in a meditative state before we went into the breakout rooms. So I think that's very insightful. Were we supposed to not react at all while listening? Yes. The idea is to get to a point, Takimi, where we're not reacting. If so, I'm sorry. No, you didn't disregard it. This is new. When I listen, it's instinctive to nod. Yes. And that's what we were just talking about. It is instinctive. And we're trying not to fall back into what we're conditioned to do or what we usually do. But these are beautiful noticings, just noticing this.
Yeah, and I'll add that nodding is somewhat not that unusual. Even in insight dialogue, practitioners just do it. We know each other. You're in an intimate setting with people you know very well. It's almost like there's somewhat of an agreement or a contract unspoken that I'm not going to be completely disinterested to somebody else's suffering or what they might be experiencing. So that happens at times. And I'll add that sometimes being silent might be the right thing in the moment. So I did a practice about a month or so ago. It was like an alumni get together, kind of 50 of us that were on retreat a year ago. And so I knew I was with an experienced practitioner. She'd done this even longer than I had, and I've been doing this for like 6 or 7 years. And they gave us a contemplation. We went into our dyads. She looked at me for about a minute and a half and then gently closed her eyes. So I did the same. And about every couple minutes, I would open my eyes just to make sure she's still wanting to be in that state, and that's what she did, and that was fine. And
She
we
was
went into, and then we went to open dialogue, and we did the same thing. And I'll tell you, and it was a long one. It was a 2 hour session, so our open dialogue was like 20 to 30 minutes. And when we came out, I was like very content, very settled, and very grateful. That's what the moment called for with her. So,
yeah, it's
yeah, go ahead, Felipe.
Lonnie, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more. Let me give some context for what it is I'm asking. So I'm familiar with this practice from nonviolent communication, and I guess that the sense that I have that I'm hearing is that because our conditioned behaviors and tendencies may very well be to insert ourselves too much even if it's well intended. I want to help you, I want to be show empathy, or um, that the practice is meant to sort of help us to really recondition those things, or trial. And so maybe that's what's going on. I will say that because it is so incredibly unnatural to remain stone faced, um, I guess I find it not all that useful. Among other things, I think that stone-faced reactions, I think in my own experience, often lead to confusion from the other person, precisely because people don't tend to communicate without with such passivity. So again, I don't mean any of this as a criticism. I mean it is help me to sort of hear a little bit more about what you think the practice is trying to accomplish.
I'm happy to address that, Felipe.
Sure, please.
As you're speaking, Lonnie, I'm listening and thinking, what's the practice been like for me and how has it been helpful? And the first thought that came to my mind is I am now able to listen to my wife a lot better and not try to guess where she's going, judge what she's saying, fix it, or do anything with it. Can I just generously listen without reacting at all?
And I
And
think the
that,
key word is generous.
yeah, so Lonnie, I love your comments. It also makes me think about some comments by Norman Fisher that what works for you today may not work for someone else. What works for you today may not work for you tomorrow. So the idea is try a number of different practices, have them in your toolbox, and you'll know when is the right time to use a certain practice. Thank you. So maybe we take one more question from
Yep,
John, and
John Dublin. Yep.
then Philippe and I will stay late for questions and answers, but we want to turn over after John to Lori for some Mills messages. But go ahead, John.
And thank you both for this. I hadn't done this before. It was interesting. And I think what I took from it as the speaker, because my partner did a really good job of being stone-faced, and we talked about that in our open dialogue. And what I came to was it felt like a monologue with an audience. And it was meditative for me because I went second, so it felt like it was longer than 3 minutes. And I was just thinking about filling the space and investigating my own thoughts in a way that I don't normally over the course of the day. And I wasn't distracted by her reactions. It was a very internal process for me for several minutes, which I thought was quite interesting and not the way I normally go through life. So I wondered if that was part of the point is for the speaker, it's a very internal thing.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, John. And it's really interesting. It's like I practiced yesterday for an hour and a half with a group I meet with every Sunday morning, and um, the gentleman I was working with just got a brand new PC, and he only uses Apple computers, right? So he was struggling with that, which was causing us to struggle. And it was like we're practicing in the real here and now with the actual suffering, right? So it was somewhat of a disjointed meditative dialogue, but we still did it. Other times, I've had epiphanies that are absolutely amazing. I've gone on week-long Vipassana silent retreats. I had epiphanies and an hour and a half of insight dialogue I can't get by sitting under a tree by myself for a week. That's just me right now with where I'm at in my practice. Maybe it'll change over time. I've investigated different practices over the years. But for me right now, it works. And in part, John, it's because, like you said, it's like you're really just dipping into right now. There's only two people in the world, me and my listener. That's it. So I can do a meditative dialogue. I can really explore where I'm at, and I don't have to worry about being interrupted by somebody who wants to steer me in a different direction. There's a beauty in that. And when you practice it um, regularly, I think it's easier to fall into it, to be more grounded and get more out of it. So it's kind of like other mindfulness practices. The more you do of it, perhaps there'll be more benefits. Thanks, John.
In Ron, such a great question on John's part. But Ron, I remember when you first told me why you were so into insight dialogue, was you said it helped you a lot in your practice as a trial attorney during voir dires and picking a jury. And I just thought that alone should make it something that lawyers should know about this.
Yeah, when I got back into formal meditation back in like I don't know what it was, 2007 or so, I was at one of Jerry Spence's trial lawyers college workshops for like a month. And the idea when you're doing voir dire is, at least Jerry Spence's method, is find out what the jury is thinking that's going to hurt you later because you're not going to be in the deliberation room. Find out now. So you've got to come up with techniques to like be able to hear things you don't want to hear and how not to attack somebody in that moment. So yeah, Felipe, thank you for remembering that example. But we're past 11 now, and I want to be
And I just,
conscious of everyone's time. Go ahead, Felipe.
excuse me, Ron, I just put this up. This is it's a link to my Google Drive of the 6 guidelines if you'd like to copy the link. And if for some reason this doesn't work for you, email me and I'll send you the copy, the PDF. But this should bring you to the PDF of it.
So thank you all. I am going to pass it to Lori because she has some Mills announcements.
Thank you, Ron and Felipa. This was very interesting. It was my first exposure to this, type of practice. It does align very nicely with my training, the John Kabat-Zinn MBSR training, when we focus on mindful listening. And I'll just say that what I've taken away from this is it's just another practice, which the practices help us in the real world. So we wouldn't be having these type of dialogues, just with Joe Schmo, but we do this practice intentionally to develop this capability to be, fully present and listening and non-judgment, which, to your example, Ron, does help us when we're dealing with our loved ones in real life to be fully present. So I think it's just that training. So I just, I hope that aligns with what what you were intending to share, but that's how it landed for me. Very briefly, thank you again, Ron and Felipa, for kicking off our 2026 Community Connections. Our next one will be February 12th, and Maria Breeze, the co-chair of the Illinois chapter, and Courtney Sholnick, co-chair of the Mid-Atlantic chapter, will be leading a session on choosing forgiveness. So it's already up on our upcoming events website. So if you want to go to the website, the registration link is there. The newsletter will be going out this week. It'll also be announced there, and then there'll be LinkedIn posts. But I encourage all of you, if you're able, to please join us next month also. And as a reminder for Mills members, the recordings are posted on the member-only portal. So this particular one will be available if you want to rewatch it down the line. And all of our previous Community Connection recordings are posted there. So you get a chance, to look at those. If you're not a member, I hope that encourages you to become a member. We'd love to have you. But thank you all for joining us. Again, thank you, Ron. Thank you, Felipa. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody. Nice
Thank
to
you
see you
all.
all.
Trying it out. Thank
And
you.
I just posted in the chat the one page